木枯らしとともに訪れる感冒の季節、電研では感冒ワクチンの製造が行われています。その製造過程は、まずヒナに帰りかけの卵に窓を開け、動くヒナの血管に少量の病原菌ウイルスを注射します。この卵を保温器に2昼夜置くと、何十億倍というウイルスが増えています。これを吸い取って鳥の赤血球を入れ、それに付着させます。さらに遠心分離機にかければ赤血球が沈殿して、そこにはたくさんの病原菌がついています。この方法によって純粋なワクチンが多量に作られ、襲い来たる感冒の攻撃を未然に防ぐ役目を果たすのです。
黒ダイヤの悲劇へ追い打ちをかけるように、北海道夕張に発生したポリオは全国各地へと蔓延。北海道の43名をはじめ、熊本を中心とする九州に猛威を振るい、中部地方から関東に及び、昨年を上回ろうとしています。ポリオの病巣となった東京の足立区一帯。消毒が叫ばれても人々は生活に追われ、ポリオは社会の底辺に執念深い爪を伸ばしているのです。不安と焦燥におののく母親たちは保健所に殺到。半年先でなければ効かない早期ワクチンに望みをかけています。だがそれもとっくに底をつき、こうした事態を招いた厚生省の不手際へ母親の非難が集中しています。
承認麻痺から私たちの子供を守ることができるのです。それは生ワクチンであります。生ワクチンです。
希望の多い生ワクチンも厚生省はすでに早期ワクチンの生産を始めた国内業者を保護するため、その輸入をためらい続けてきました。その上、早期ワクチンでさえ輸入価格はわずか45円。それが業者保護のため6倍の270円に釣り上げられています。豪々たる非難の中で生ワクチン使用に踏み切ったものの、時すでに遅く、続々と新たな犠牲者が発生。母親の願いも虚しく、ポリオに侵された血のみ子を抱いて、隔離病院へ収容されていきます。子を持つ母親たちは不安におののくばかり。新しい患者が次々に駆けつける隔離病院では、ポリオウイルスを確かめるルンバール。お母さんはただ悲嘆に暮れるばかりです。やがて失意の中から立ち上がり、この日から母と子の果てしない麻痺との戦いが始まるのです。そして心の拠り所を宗教に求める母親。日産を欠かさぬこのお母さんは何を訴えているのでしょうか。こうした中で東京とか小平の療育園では、幼い犠牲者たちが体の不自由と戦っています。去年、流行地北海道で、2人の子が同時に発病する悲運に見舞われた薬師さん一家は、治療のため東京に越してきました。下の子が治療に来る日は、入院している上の子がお母さんに会える日。ママに抱っこをねだり、お姉さんがダダをこねています。ポリオのゆえに別れ別れに暮らす母と子。 発病後2年は少しずつ麻痺が回復すると言われ、週に2度のルンバール、脊髄に注射し、神経の麻痺の回復を促します。だが、2年を過ぎて、神経も筋肉も回復が止まった後、変形した部分には整形手術が行われます。これは筋肉や骨の形を変え、運動に耐えうる形をこしらえます。再び歩ける日のために、少女は激しい苦痛に耐えていくのです。ルンバールや手術の辛さを超えて、いよいよ歩く訓練が始まります。七転び八起き。回復が止まっても、麻痺していない残りの筋肉を鍛えることによって、失われた機能を補います。足と腰を鍛える屈伸運動。この坊やは1日5回のノルマへ懸命の努力を続けています。ポリオの悲劇を食い止めるために、政治がもっと温かい手を貸してくれるように、この少年は訴えているのです。
Many years ago, we Rotarians made a promise to the children of the world to rid our planet of the scourge of polio. We keep our promises, and the eradication of polio remains Rotary's highest priority. In order to cross the finish line, we need to remain vigilant. As Rotarians, we need to continue to educate ourselves, our fellow members, and the public on the devastating effects of this virus on children and their families. It's my pleasure to share a special preview of Rotary's documentary, Drop to Zero. It's an in-depth look at the historic effort to eradicate polio. I know you'll find this film as meaningful as I do. Let's take a look.
हुआ सबसे ज़्यादा दुख हुआ कि आज हमारे भी दोनों पैर होते तो हम भी कुछ दुख ज़्यादातर हुआ.
I had a sore throat and a high fever. My dad took me to the doctor and they called my name and I got up and collapsed. And the doctor said she has polio.
Từ đó cô chạy bươi như chợ tư nó thứ chạy chạy nên cô chỉ đi mó cái đường lú đùa nó nè.
Polio has preyed on humanity for thousands of years, moving around the world from person to person in an unbroken chain of infection. In the early 1950s, there was a particularly intense outbreak in the United States that crippled nearly 60,000 people.
It was really frightening because there was no vaccine and you never knew who was going to get polio. Everybody knew somebody who had the disease. It's been described as the AIDS of the time.
And in the past, precautions are taken to prevent gatherings of youngsters.
Parents wouldn't let their children go swimming. Movie theaters were closed. People were kept inside. Nobody knew what was happening.
What we know today is that polio is spread by contact with contaminated food, water, or human waste. When the virus multiplies in the intestines, many children will only suffer from mild flu-like symptoms. But in 1 in 200 cases, it travels to the spine, attacking nerve cells that control the muscles in the arms and legs, leaving the victim paralyzed. In the worst cases, the victim dies, unable to breathe or swallow. In 1954, at the height of the epidemic, Dr. Jonas Salk tested an injectable vaccine, which offered a first ray of hope. Approximately 5 years later, Dr. Albert Sabin developed an oral vaccine that was less expensive and easier to use. Humanity finally seemed to be gaining the upper hand.
Dr. Salk, you have said that eliminating polio is no longer a scientific problem. I take it you were correctly quoted.
Yes, Mr. Spivak. I think that it's a social and economic problem. The problem is not one of vaccine effectiveness, but one of vaccine use.
Jonas Salk was right. By 1979, 61 countries had used the two vaccines to eradicate polio, including the United States and Canada.
But in the rest of the world, we were still seeing 350,000 children paralyzed every year. So that was part of what contributed to the launching of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, to ensure that every single child benefits from vaccination. No child should have polio.
We come to this hour grateful for the achievements of the past.
The drive for global eradication came from a most unlikely source. Rotary International, a group of business and professional leaders dedicated to public service, was looking for a global project to celebrate its 75th anniversary.
Smallpox had been eradicated just 1 year before, so we decided to take on polio.
It seemed like an impossible dream.
When we first approached the World Health Organization about working with us to eradicate polio, they felt that we were amateurs, we didn't know what we were talking about, that we really didn't have anything to bring to the table.
So Rotary went it alone, supplying volunteers and vaccines for mass immunization programs around the world.
We knew that there was a vaccine that could be easily administered. It could be done by non-professional individuals by just putting 2 little drops into the child's mouth.
From Brazil to El Salvador, from Indonesia to the Ivory Coast. These initial campaigns were remarkably successful.
In 1979, we did a huge vaccination program in Philippines, 6 million children, and we found it worked.
And Rotary raised money for further campaigns.
They exceeded that goal and raised $119,186,000. We're over goal!
Now, the World Health Organization took notice.
We went back to them and said, we've raised $248 million. Will you work with us to accomplish this? And at that point, the World Health Organization said, yes.
The fact that a volunteer organization can persuade public and private people to join us in this manner, I think says a great deal for mankind that it can be done.
In 1988, the World Health Organization launched a public-private partnership called the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, officially adopting Rotary's dream.
Without Rotary International lobbying and pressuring and forcing agencies to talk to each other and governments to talk to agencies, we never would have started the Global Polio Eradication Initiative.
The United Nations Children's Fund agreed to purchase and distribute vaccines. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control would serve as the program's global virus hunters.
You know, if you look at what's made a difference in terms of the progress, often political commitment has been a factor. And Rotary has been key in terms of motivating community leadership, political leadership, to get this job done.
The World Health Organization would direct the program's strategy, and Rotary would continue to supply volunteers, raise funds, and act as the program's global advocate.
There were many skeptics. The sheer magnitude of vaccinating between 250 million and 400 million children every year, it's mind-boggling. It's the largest global health initiative in history, involving more people on the planet than any other initiative.
When the program started in 1988, the goal was to eradicate polio by the year 2000. Although the program missed its original deadline, the number of infected countries dropped from 125 to 9. To provide vaccine to remote areas, the polio program has built a globe-spanning network called a cold chain, which keeps the vaccine from spoiling. The cold chain begins with private sector drug companies that supply billions of doses of vaccine to UNICEF, which stockpiles, manages, and transports the vaccine to polio programs around the world.
It's very, very difficult at the best of times to be able to reach people consistently every month with a viable vaccine that you've kept at the right temperature and get to every household and reach every child, let alone in areas of civil crisis.
This has brought to the fore our need to ensure that we do not become complacent, because this is what the virus does. It surprises you.
As the global program closes in on the goal of eradicating polio, all the stakes get higher.
They'll say, we made a promise to the children of the world, and we haven't delivered yet, and we won't stop until we do.
We need each of you to advocate for continued support from government and elected officials, to talk to your fellow club members, family, and friends, to ask them to join you in making a financial contribution. Let's not forget that every donation to End Polio Now will be matched 2 to 1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And finally, please encourage your district leaders to contribute district-designated funds. District-designated fund contributions will be matched 1 for 1 by the World Fund. And with a 2 to 1 Gates Foundation match, contributions of district-designated funds will yield a 6 to 1 match. These critical funds will save lives. That's our history, our vision, and our legacy. Rotary members had the audacity to start this campaign, and we won't stop until it's done.